Hello and welcome back to another Demis Hellen tutorial. You may have already heard this on my Facebook page or through the channel trailer. If you aren't following me on Facebook, go and follow me now. The link is in the description below and you'll get to see some of these little sneak peek videos here and there, amongst other things. What we're going to do today is we're going to increase and basically make the horn section a little bit more violent in terms of its timbre and its presence. And then we'll have a quick walkthrough with what the ambient section is built with, and then we'll start working on it. So first things first, I'm just going to let you listen to this build up and then we'll look into it. Okay, as you can hear, that is the ambient section, and the environment that I've created there is one where something is obviously malfunctioning, electricity flying everywhere. It's a pretty dangerous place, so I wanted to create some atmos there for the middle of this track before it kind of progressed into the next section. And the bit that we're going to focus on today is these three tracks here. So I've used a bit of pitch shifting on some of these to give them a bit of a kind of horrible tone, like discombobulated in a way. It just doesn't sound right and it sounds like there's something wrong. And that's what I really want to convey, that kind of cinematic sound. Also, that is underpinned by a couple of basses, which is this one from Spire and this one here from my Spire pack, which is actually a pad, but it's got quite a hefty back tone, and that's where this the whole idea came from. That one, just holding that one note and thinking that'd sound really good with some like really brassy horns on top of it. Right, so moving on to the Atmos part, we have to start with some footsteps. You don't really hear them now. These were the main focus, and then I kind of just drowned them out in the mix, but left them in there just for a little bit of texture. So as you can see, footsteps on leaves, very nice. And then we have a deep effects from the FG Noise pack. So if you haven't already checked that out, you can check that on screen now. It's a review of the Trance pack. It's a construction kit by FG Noise. Absolutely superb, some great effects, and I've been using a lot of them since. So that is from there, and it sounds like this. So that just adds a little bit more atmosphere in there, so it just adds to the uncertainty of what things are taking place. Then we have a crash cymbal from the FG Noise pack again, so nothing too drastic there. Then we have some breathing, so now this starts to build the anticipation. Again, these are all from Splice, apart from the FG Noise ones, and it just speeds up the workflow, like grabbing these brass horns instead of loading all my software up and doing it and bouncing it down and all that sort of thing. Drag and drop, done. So that's time stretched again along with the horn sections just to kind of give that discombobulated feel. And then we start moving on to some random effects. A really bad acting cough, that is in the background. You can just about hear it on headphones, and that's kind of what I do when I do my cinematic stuff, create things that you can only hear in the headphones and you have to listen to it over and over to hear different things. Then a whole kick from Vengeance Essentials 1, I think, yep. And then we have our first cinematic kind of kick boom. That kind of modern sound that you get in action films now. And then we have the first of the electricity. So from here on, it is all electricity. You can see there's a bit of panning going on there. And then these are the same sounds, but they're panned left and right It might be hard left, hard right, or a little bit, so just to give it some more dynamic in the stereo field. Okay, and then we have this kind of constant electricity noise here. And I've used a bit of the Doppler effect from the Waves plugin just to kind of give it that kind of passing by. And then I have overlapped a sound there by accident, obviously, which is part of these 3 samples here, which create this, which was all one sample, and I've just split it between left and right channels. Okay, and then there is another electricity sample here, which should be on a separate track as well, but it's not. So that's just like a transformer just melting. And that is everything. That is everything that is included in there. So all the electricity noises sound like this. So it just builds up that little bit of environment that the track starts to operate. You kind of get plunged into this, oh my god, what is happening sort of thing. So what we want to do, there's a few supporting things up here. They're not really part of that build of cinematic sounds and things that I did, but they're there to support. So what we want to do is make this a bit harsher and that a bit harsher. And I'll probably just increase the volume on that. And the plugin that I'm going to use for this particular sound is the, if I remember it now, is it the M Saturator? No, it's not. So just bear with me 2 seconds. It's the System Saturator here from Hoffer. I think it's Hoffer. So this is a cracking little plugin to add some real like drive and violence into a sound. So we're looking at this one horn sound here, and this is just passing through it with no consequence at all. If you listen to it again, so it's doing nothing to it. Now we're going to put on the distortion. So you can hear already how it's added that violence. So we're going to bypass the bass a bit. About 150, I reckon. And I'm just going to cap it off about there. Okay, so now we have control over the drive. You can have it just totally ridiculous. Or we can just have a little bit. So we're going to add it about halfway. That's where it seems to work best for me. And then we can mess around with the tone, and we can choose it as like a steep curve or a resonant curve. Okay, so we've got enough brassiness. There's a lot of tone on the top, so we're just going to drop that tone a bit. Okay, so just looking on here, we've got -22. I'm just looking on the mixer on the other channel, so we're at -10 on the channel itself. So let's just give it a bit of a boost. It's probably going to come in hot now because I've just boosted here. So we're at -8.1. And I'm just going to tone the bass down a little bit there. put a bit of a high shelf here. See, I want to control the brassiness there with the EQ rather than the distortion. So it's nice to have a bit of a crossover there and just the kind of natural sound, if you will, come through. And then we're just going to balance that back out because we've done quite a hefty boost. I'm just going to knock it down 5 dB. Just let it hit a few times. I reckon we can knock it up. 4.3, I reckon. That will do. Alright, and let's just have a listen first things first. Let's see if it's made a difference. Let's turn it off. So you can hear that horn has died into the background. And then let's restart it. Okay, so that is sounding pretty good. Let's have a look. Is it this one? Sorry, I'm just looking on the other screen here for gain levels. That's all good. So we've increased the tonality of that, and we've actually turned the tone down on the distortion and then pushed up the kind of higher frequencies with the EQ alone. What we have as an issue now is this one. It sounds very plain Jane. There's a little bit not going on with this one, and if we just bring the mixer over, as you can see, we have naff all on here. So what we're going to do is we're going to give it a little bit of a warm boost. So first things first, I'm going to add a little bit of Molot on here. I'm going to bypass them low frequencies. Let's have a bit of a slowish attack. So I'm just trying to beefing up the sound a little bit. Have a little bit of a parallel thing going. And then we'll give it a bit of a scoop, I think. So what are we achieving there? About -3-ish. Oops. Okay, so I'm just going to push it up just a little bit there. Then we are going to stick a Pro Q3 on here. So we're looking at about -6, maybe -5.8-ish, if it pushes any further. Yeah, it's going to hit -6. Just making sure everything's going to be nice and level, so it's just cutting it fine there. Just going to drop this a tad, so we keep a little bit of distance away from that -6 mark. Okay, so we can see that I just want to get rid of some of that area there. Quite drastic. Remember, we're doing some cinematic stuff, so we can be pretty creative with this. Okay, I'm just going to bring the gain down by about 1 dB, because we are doing some pretty hefty boosting here. Okay, and you've got to remember this part is never playing in the track itself at any point, only in this section, which is the kind of the bit that we want to have a real impact. So let's have a listen to it in context. Let's have a listen with it off. Okay, so it's got a lot more presence now. The boost is probably a little bit too high there, so I'm going to go there. We don't want things collapsing from underneath, because we've already got this providing most of the power. I just want that to, yeah, just to kind of add extra weight there, because there is a little bit cut off on there. And altogether we have whereas before we had that. So it's got some tonality there. You can hear the horn, it sounds okay, but it just has no clout and no clarity in the mix. So first things first, make it violent. And it adds to that atmosphere and environment because it's so distorted, you know there's something not quite right in your environment. And then we have added Molot and Pro Q3 to add some warmth into this kind of synth bass. So it's not about making drastic changes, it's about making changes that suit the mix. So the most drastic was the horn section, but the actual bass part of it, the bass synth, is a little bit more gentle because we've got a couple of things that are already working in this area, including this and this, which has already got some removed bass. But they do happen together at that point. So let's have a listen to that whole section now. Okay, so we missed the arpeggio out of the top, but hey ho, you get the idea. This is now kind of a completed section. I'd probably revisit just for a few balancing issues. The low end stuff is going through a mix bus anyway on the mixer, and then all the kind of electric effects are on a separate bus to that as well, which just makes everything a little bit tidier and easier to balance and mix. And just to help this synth here to cut through the mix, I have just added a little bit of pitch shifting with the mod envelope just to give it a little bit of attack so it stands out from the rest of that chaos that's happening. And obviously until it gets support from this synth here. So that is the end of the tutorial. I hope you got some insight onto creating some atmosphere. There's, you can see on there, there's actually copious amounts of reverb going through to this channel here, which has got my reverb. Now acquired Pro R, so if you want to see some videos on Pro R, let me know. There's quite a lot of things we can do with this. I'm messing around with the presets, getting a feel for the reverb and such like, and obviously you've just seen Sylenth, so as many of you know and are shocked to know, I've only just purchased Sylenth and it is 2019, that is correct. So there'll be a few more presets coming there. Over on Patreon there are already 5 presets for October for Sylenth, as well as MIDI, depending on which tier that you sign up for. If you so wish to support, then head over to the link. And finally, hit the like button and also drop me a comment. Let me know what you thought. Did you like this track? Do you like this kind of atmospheric idea instead of going into a traditional kind of route with the pads or just a singular atmos kind of sound? Let me know. And finally, hit subscribe and the bell icon so you see all 3 uploads, which are Monday, Wednesday and Friday. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.